Jason Rapert is serving his second term in the Arkansas Senate. He was elected in 2010 and re-elected in 2012. He represents Senate District 35, which is comprised of parts of Faulkner and Perry counties. Senator Rapert is chairman of the Senate Insurance and Commerce Committee and the Arkansas Legislative Council Hospital and Medicaid Study Subcommittee. Mr. Rapert is president and owner of Rapert Financial and Associates Incorporated in Conway. He received his undergraduate degree from the University of Central Arkansas. He is a lifelong resident of Arkansas. Mr. Rapert is a Republican. Senator, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me here with you today. It's an honor.
Okay, so let us begin with one of the biggest issues that will be facing the next session of the legislature, the private option. Where do you stand on it?
Well, first of all, I did vote for the private option. I felt it was the best thing that we could possibly do for the state of Arkansas under the circumstances. People well know that I have opposed the Obamacare legislation, the Affordable Care Act. I simply believe that the history and the tradition of insurance in America has been state-based regulation. Actually, I chair the Insurance and Commerce Committee for the Arkansas Senate, and in addition, I was elected to serve on the National Conference of Insurance Legislators. And INCOIL has been based for many, many years upon making sure that the state-based regulatory system is kept in place, which is also supported by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. The bottom line is that we've seen so many changes that has come about from a result of the Affordable Care Act that it's created a lot of chaos in our healthcare systems and a lot of stress and chaos on families and business owners as well. So my hope is that the federal government would have backed off and changed the Obamacare legislation in hopes of allowing the states to do what is best for their own individual populations. And so, in my opinion, the Affordable Care Act went too far, but in terms of the private option, it was a way forward for our state as a response to the Affordable Care Act. So the bottom line on where Jason Rapert stands on that, I opposed Obamacare when I was first elected in 2010 and also in 2012. I signed an amicus curiae brief that went before the United States Supreme Court with other state legislators that said we oppose this, let the states take care of this situation for ourselves. And then when the Supreme Court ruled, they actually left our state in a worse position than we had even before, because they ruled that the Affordable Care Act was quote unquote constitutional, but yet they said that the states could not be mandated to expand Medicaid. And so a lot of the quote unquote deals that were made by hospitals and health providers were then left in a bad situation because they agreed to Medicare cuts, which is for seniors, in exchange for Medicaid expansion. Well, what happened is when they said that that was not going to be mandated, then we had many hospitals that were possibly going to face closure. So the Conway Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Conway Regional Hospital, as well as the Hospital Association, visited with me and said that we need to do something to bridge the gap. And so I voted for the private option, and as any good business person would do, every time that comes before the legislature, we'll take a look at it to see, is this really the best thing for Arkansas at this time? That's what I want, is the best thing for our community.
Okay. And do you think that small businesses will be able to sustain themselves if the minimum wage amendment passes?
Well, there's a lot more to the minimum wage than just that question the way it's posed. The minimum wage issue, first of all, I own a business here in Conway. In fact, I'm the only person in this race that does own a business that's ever had to make a payroll. And so I understand what small business owners go through. When you mandate an expansion of the minimum wage, everybody knows that those prices get passed along to you and me and everyone else. So whether you're buying a hamburger at McDonald's or whether you're buying a computer program at the local bookstore, wherever, when people are mandated to increase the minimum wage, that's going to be passed through. I don't think that we should be mandating that. That's my opinion. I think that a free market sets the wages. But in terms of minimum wage, I personally have always paid more the minimum wage at my business. I have no problem with the minimum wage, the Arkansas quote-unquote minimum wage, being raised to be parity with the federal minimum wage, because most jobs are paying the federal minimum wage anyway. I think, frankly, that this has been much of a political ploy in our state, trying to put a wedge issue between voters. The fact is, most jobs that you have available, they're going to be paying the federal minimum wage anyway. So I don't have any problem with it. I think it's a smokescreen that has been used for a political wedge issue.
Okay. Many candidates talk about wanting to cut taxes. How can taxes be cut without a corresponding reduction in state services? And if they're cut, then should the decisions be made by the agencies or by the legislature?
Well, actually, all you have to do is look at the state of Arkansas. We've cut taxes, and we have been able to keep our services, and we also have been able to allow business owners to keep more dollars in their own pockets, as well as middle-class families in the state of Arkansas. I actually was the prime sponsor of the sales tax reduction on food. When I first ran for office in 2010, I felt it was wrong for the state of Arkansas to be one of the few states in the country that actually will tax people when they're buying bread and butter and milk at the grocery stores. When you've got a state where we have a high population that is living below the poverty level, I felt it was morally wrong for us to be taxing their grocery items. So I asked for a reduction in the sales tax. I actually wanted to get rid of it completely. And in the last session, Governor Mike Beebe sat down with me right before the session and began talking about it. I said, Governor, that's an issue that you have wanted to get rid of, the sales tax on groceries, and so have I. And he said, well, you want to carry the bill? I said, you bet, I want to carry the bill. So I was the lead sponsor in the Senate, a Republican, and then Representative Darren Williams was the lead sponsor in the House, a Democrat. And we led that bill to passage, and it has within that bill several different triggers that once those triggers are met, that we would continually reduce the sales tax on groceries. In addition to that, we reduced the income tax here in Arkansas by a small percentage, and we also have been able to cut taxes on capital gains, which helps business owners. Arkansas has to be competitive, and the way that we're competitive is that we have one of the best business environments of any state around us. And we've been working on that since the Republicans took over the legislature in 2012. We want to continue that. And I would have to tell you that even with those reductions, we have ended up with surpluses here in the state of Arkansas, some of which, those surpluses, I've been able to help get back here into my community. We've been able to get, since I've been over the past, I guess it was, last year, President Courtway said the other day that of the $9 million in capital improvements that UCA has gotten over the past few years, $4.7 million of it came with my assistance here. I've been able to get money for the Arkansas Educational Television Network, I think to the tune now of $100,000 from GIF. And then I asked for another $1 million from the governor for AETN, and we got $500,000. And so we've been able to help them. $50,000 for the Faulkner County Senior Citizen Center, $50,000 for the Conway Human Development Center, and the Imagination Library, which gets books in the hands of little kids when they're born in our community. And so that surplus we've been able to put back into our community, and that wouldn't be possible except we've managed government well, we've cut taxes, and still been able to have some surpluses.
Okay. And last but not least, do you support the 12-week abortions law the legislature passed last year?
You bet, because I was the prime sponsor of that bill. I actually am proud to have sponsored the Arkansas Heartbeat bill. The fact of the matter is, Yaunica, we've had 57 million little babies that's had their lives taken in this country since 1973. When you think about tragedy, you think about the Holocaust in World War II, 6 million Jewish people annihilated. You think about the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda, 1 million. You say those things and you immediately say that's a tragedy, that's awful. But yet in this nation, by law, since 1973, when 7 men made a decision that abortion was legal and okay, 57 million innocent little babies have had their lives taken in this country. That's simply too many. You know, I went to college at UCA, and I learned how to get involved in issues. And one of the issues that I see young people involved in is one we've helped in our legislature, which was human trafficking. And I want to ask every single person that will stand up and say they're going to fight human trafficking, why will you not fight for the right of a little baby to have a life? So that bill was passed by an overwhelming majority in the Arkansas legislature, and then Governor Beebe vetoed that bill, and then we overrode that veto. And what I'm proud of is, even though a federal judge, by the way, we were sued by Planned Parenthood and the ACLU and those groups. In fact, my opponent has received $1,000 from the Little Rock Abortion Clinic. We've never seen a candidate in Arkansas take $1,000 from an abortion clinic. And so that bill, when we passed that bill, over 60% of Arkansans said that they were for the heartbeat bill to stand up for the lives of innocent little babies, and I'm proud of that.
Okay, thank you so much, Senator Raper, for joining us today. We've been visiting with Senator Jason Raper, incumbent candidate for the Arkansas State Senate District 35. For News 6, I'm Yaunica Warren.